In 2025, you just need to burn the playbook. This week in e-commerce, episode 104. We have hit 2 years of recording. I am Mel Chia, back with you for another week, along with the webinar queen, Alex Ross. Alex, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, Mal. How are you going?
I'm doing pretty well. Look, I've been sick all week again. Kids, I don't recommend them if you like to live a healthy lifestyle, because in the 3.5 weeks I haven't traveled, I have got the flu twice in that period. Although thankfully I am now over it. I've just landed into Sydney, ready for IPX tomorrow, where I'll be delivering the opening keynote.
Unreal. IPX it's a brilliant day. The opening keynote, it's a high position.
Yeah, look, it's an exciting one as well, because I think it's something where the topic is called Burn the Playbook, just about how, like, in 2025, you just need to burn the playbook. And it's something which I've been talking about a little while, that you just cannot rely on the same tricks and tactics which people have been using for years. So it's going to be a really great way just to kind of like frame the whole day, because it is a fantastic day. The IPX team, Ayan has done a fantastic job this year. It's at Illumina, where Meta had their big event earlier this year, and Klaviyo had K Sydney as well. So there's going to be, I think, about 500 people there. So it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's always some great goodie bags going on at Impact's events too.
They do go all out with that. This year there is a new bag sponsor. Every year there's a new bag sponsor. There's a new water bottle sponsor. And I have been the beneficiaries of them for my very first Yeti I got from them. I got my favorite Frank Green is also from Impact. So I'm really curious to see how do you go from Yeti and Frank Green? Like, what is the next water bottle after that?
Well, not a water bottle, but I got a July bag the year that I went. So it's
Oh,
totally yeah,
the over the shoulder thing. Yeah, I got that one too.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to see which bag company they get. It wasn't Maison de Sabre, unfortunately. I know that for a fact. Although that would have been pretty cool for everyone to get Maison de Sabre luggage, which is my luggage of choice.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see who does that, who does the water bottle. But Alana Maria are also going to be there, and they're going to be doing their forever jewelry
Oh,
as
I
well.
love that. I've got Sarah and Sebastian's I don't know if they call it Forever Jewelry, what it's called, but it's an amazing experience. So that's great. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be really exciting. And what have you been up to, Alex? You've had a busy last couple of weeks,
I
and
have,
a few weeks ahead.
and a few weeks ahead, yes. So I had a webinar this morning with Jacinda, which was great, covering off our online retail topic, how to nail product discovery for conversion and AOB growth. I nearly forgot it then. And then starting next week, doing a short webinar, mini series, 15-minute kind of digestible nuggets on a Thursday. So should get that out on LinkedIn this week. I actually had something cool happen, Mal. I was reaching out about the webinar to someone to invite them to this morning, and they replied, "Oh, I listened to the podcast with Mal." So that was fab. And then she's going to sign up to the upcoming webinar series from there.
Fantastic. Love
Yeah.
that. Love to hear that we're bringing new people into the fold. Everyone is like, we get the cross-pollination between different things. I did an interview the other day with someone, and they were like looking at the background going like, I see this every week. I'm like, what? I feel like I know you already. I'm like, oh, that's so weird to say. Yeah, I watched the podcast. And at first I'm thinking, why do people watch the podcast? I know we upload the video, but I assume most people still just listen to the audio. But
Uh,
apparently people listen to the video, watching the video.
yeah, you've got an iconic background. I need to do more with this Bear Corner. I had a weekend of spring cleaning. Bunnings was very busy. Got some paintings up on the walls. So now the home office is the next thing.
Fantastic. Love to hear that. Love to hear that as we go into spring. All right. Now, a topic very close to my heart, because I've literally just got off probably the busiest Qantas flight I've ever been on, is that Qantas are introducing brand new flight crew uniforms. Now, their uniforms aren't too bad already. And this is something where I feel like there's almost an arms race between like airlines and fashion designers trying to one up each other in terms of like who they're using for their crew uniforms, but also they're designing their menus and things like that. Qantas are partnering with Rebecca Vallance, and I think that's so bloody cool.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Amazing brand. They're a client as well. Actually, I've worked with them personally. They're amazing. It's been a decade with the current uniforms, believe it or not. So it does seem timely. I'm so super excited to see what she comes up with. Won't see it until 2027 though, so we've got a couple of years to wait.
Look, it takes some time, and I think it's not something which you will roll out piecemeal. You definitely want to make sure the whole crew has it, and these things take time because it's something which are millions, tens of millions of people each year, if not hundreds of millions of people each year, will be seeing on a regular basis. So you want it to look the best, especially when you are Australia's national carrier. You are you're the airline people think of when you think about Australia. So I'm really excited for this. I think it's great that they're partnering with another really hot Australian designer to be doing this. And I think this is also part of like a broader refresh work, brand refresh as well, which Qantas are going to be undertaking. Obviously, with the new CEO stepping in last year, that they're going to be making a lot of changes to kind of re re-establish their position in the market because they have come under quite a bit of fire over the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, or it's just good to have a positive news story for them, right? So they've done well on this one. I thought the reading through the process that they're going to undertake in terms of interviewing all the different types of staff, making sure that they've got all of the specs for, like engineering as well as crew, like that'll be a big task.
Look, and this is something which we talked about a few weeks ago as well, where we talked about the importance of actually designing for the user. And with, I think you were saying that it's not just about designing uniforms for like, mini men, but actually designing uniforms for women because you want people to feel empowered. You want them to feel proud wearing that. And I think this is a great move.
Yeah, and just consulting the everyday people that are actually going to be using it, making them feel seen, part of the process, and that's just going to emanate with how they wear it. So it's all, good news for Rebecca Vallance.
Right, so in some more good news, love this story.
Yeah,
Lorna Jane have acquired Soma Bar and Bay, which is a luxury retreat venue. It is like the most bougie of the bougie venues out there, and it just fits the brand so well.
yeah, I thought you would like this one. It's definitely on brand, and it's that diversification. I think we're seeing where people, and sorry, by people I mean brands, are leaning into experiences and how they can drive revenue outside of just product sales.
Yeah, it's a huge one because, like, we've been talking about this for a while, that brands can't just exist with their product. They actually need to be about a lifestyle. And Lorna Jane, this move is a great move for her because actually I had the good fortune of meeting her a couple of times, about actually realizing this vision about being Lorna Jane of not just being clothes, but actually being a movement. And when you make this sort of bold move into this sort of space, it's just such a reflection and it makes it such an aspirational brand now. Yes, and this is what we envision that we want to be and we want our community to be part of this. So I'm really curious to see how they then actually, be able to leverage this to become actually part of their customer journey. Yeah, how they invite customers into that space, how it becomes part of their marketing, whether they're actually going to be offering and selling packages or prizes or things like that through shopping at Lorna Jane. But it's really exciting to be able to have that sort of space.
Yeah, it'll be the world's their oyster. They've got so many different ways that they can kind of activate this and bring that to their customers. It's definitely a different business though, right? Like managing a healthcare wellness center. So there's got to be some adjustments there.
Yeah, I think so. I think with everything there's going to be, but as long as they don't try to treat it as the same business and recognize that they are two separate businesses, I think they should be fine. Yeah, I look at Riderwear and how Riderwear started with activewear and now have opened some very, very successful gyms, probably one of the more successful new gym chains in the last several years. They've kind of shown that, that you can do that. You can have that dual focus, on two different businesses. Just don't try to merge them as well. But I think it's a great move. It's a great brand extension. It just makes sense. To me, it just makes sense.
It's a chef's kiss from you.
It certainly is.
Nine Perfect Strangers and Nicole Kidman were filmed at this particular retreat. That
I
was
didn't say that.
that was one of the call outs. It was like the Nicole Kidman scene at Soma Bar and Bray. Nine Perfect Strangers. I haven't seen the film though.
I have heard of that one. She's had a couple come out lately, and a couple have been fairly controversial, I believe.
Oh yes. Oh, I can't remember what that one's seen. I've seen that one. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, controversial to say the least.
All right, and something which is not so controversial from my point of view is a report coming out lately between Tixel, who's a ticket reseller, and Bolster, who had their 2025 ticketing state of play. There were 3,000 Australian respondents to the survey, which showed that live events were a priority expense for a large percentage of Australians. So for me, that's not controversial at all because I very firmly fall into that camp. I will gladly spend money. I will cry poor to my wife, but will gladly drop $300 on festival tickets.
Yeah, I think a part of me goes to they've interviewed Australian adults from a ticket company, an entertainment company. Are they talking to people that aren't also in that space? But for people like yourself, yes, not surprised at all. I'm not sure if you saw there was an Inside Retail article about some subtle shifts in July spending. Nick Gray, we could probably dive into it more next week, but he was just talking about they've seen the supermarkets and food sector go down a little bit in July. It's not a growth number like it normally is. And I thought that fit really well into this story about how basically people are choosing concerts over food. We're like, no, we don't need the groceries. I'm going to that festival.
Yeah. Look, it's about experiences, right? Like you don't just want to go like, what have I spent my life on? Yeah, have I just spent my life working, doing the 9 to 5, buying the same shit day in, day out, cooking the same things for dinner, lunch and dinner. And for what? Or would you rather go, actually, you know what? I'm going to skip a couple of meals or a lot of meals and I'm going to go to an epic festival. I'm going to see that band, which I really want to see because that's a life-changing experience. And I was explaining this to someone the other day that I went to see a band who I've been trying to get into for years and years and years, the Dillinger Escape Plan. And I could never really get into them because they're mathcore. It's this like really technical, mathematical, heavy metal. But then a friend of mine said, hey, they're coming. I'm going to buy you tickets. Let's go see them. And I was like, yeah, go on, let's go see them. And when I saw them live, it just made sense. But it was only by seeing them live that it made sense. And for me, that's how live music is. Like a great live performer can make you hear and feel music in a way which an audio recording just can't.
Yeah. Sorry, did you say mathcore?
Mathcore.
Okay.
It's very technical. It's very precise. It's all based on mathematical formula and patterns.
Oh, so the lyrics aren't like math
Math.
formula.
No, that's not about math.
Oh, I thought it was just content on math. Cool.
That would
That's
be great, though. I wonder if anyone has done that.
the other thing I did think of in this article, Mal, just before we move on, is if people were spending on those experiences and live concerts from a fashion, from a brand, from a retail perspective, how do we capitalize on that? How do we continue to a basic one like, do you have a festival fits collection page, a filter? How are you having content that's going to support that as well?
Absolutely. I think they're so important to actually be culturally relevant through this period. And this is something I've been advising a lot of brands through about what to actually put out in market. And a lot of them are going, well, we don't have new product launching or don't have much which is coming up. So we're just going to talk about BAU. And so, but that's kind of boring. It's like your marketing. And I think a lot of people just default their marketing to, well, let's just talk about what product we have. Let's only talk about what product we're releasing. That's not marketing. Yeah, marketing is much more than that. That is part of your marketing plan. That's part of your trade calendar. But really, you should be thinking about moments. You should be thinking about seasons. So coming to this period, we're seeing a lot of festivals which are going to be happening over the next quarter. You're going to be seeing the racing season. You're going to be seeing spring. These are things which should be part of your marketing plan now to think about how can be relevant through this period, not just waiting for the next product to drop.
Yeah, 100%. Remember ticket sales for festivals, they could happen in retail stores back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah, would like to
I
see
used
more.
to be I used to be a festival promoter. So I used to go to all the different record stores, drop off their allocation of tickets,
Yeah,
and then come back a couple of weeks later, find out how many they sold, got the money from them.
exactly. And that was bringing cultural moments together. Would love to see more replication of that.
Yeah, look, and there was a lot of great moments as well where you used to have teams of ticket sellers essentially who would just go out on the road and would just go meet with people, go like, "Hey, who wants a ticket to this?" It's kind of like they were ticket dealers,
Yeah.
right? It's like, "Hey, I'm going to be here. If you buy it from me at this point, I'll give you $20 off." So they were selling Stereosonic tickets like that. They were selling Future Music tickets like that. But there was a real community and a buzz to that. But now it's just like you buy it online, you scan a QR code, you've kind of missed that human interaction. And by no means am I advocating that I want paper tickets back, but I remember collecting. I had a collection of all the shows I'd been to, and I had hundreds of tickets.
Yeah. And all the posters that you would take from the Stoby polls and stuff like that.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah,
Love.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, we've got a couple more short stories, which are kind of turning into long stories now. But we're going to cover them off anyway because I think this one's pretty cool. There's a brand. Louise, which I'd never heard of, UK beauty brand, which smashed their own TikTok live record of $2.7 million USD in 14 hours, which is roughly about $300 AUD per hour at an AOV of $80 USD, so $120 USD. That is some crazy numbers, especially since I was back in TikTok shop not too long ago. Like, I see numbers like this. It's like if I had a hat, I'd wear it. I'd eat it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, beauty lends itself really well in this space, and we have seen beauty and TikTok shop work really well, particularly if you've had a look at P. Louise, which same as you, I hadn't heard of it, so I jumped on. Their products are quite fun, quite colourful, would probably lend themselves to that kind of TikTok marketing. But to know that it's such healthy AOV, I actually didn't realise that. Shoppers aren't just getting one really low sale item and going on their way. So that's really healthy numbers.
Yeah, my assumption and the numbers I'd seen from a few different sources was that the AOV in TikTok was much lower, about the $40 AOV. So those products would go well there because it meant you didn't really have to do much marketing lifting. You could just sell it on there and it was working fine. But to see these numbers, it kind of shows there is some potential there. So this is now becoming a channel which I'm off the back of this becoming much more curious to explore with a few brands who I work with, see whether we can translate over the TikTok shop. Unfortunately, still no firm word of when that's going to arrive in Australia. So I'm going to have to work with some US brands in that one.
Yeah, we've got clients in the US and the UK that use TikTok Shop. I heard this yesterday actually from a brand, super interesting. We're talking about how TikTok is its own search bar. So we're really seeing shoppers start to search for visual content using keywords. So having to not only have optimized feeds and optimized data, but having optimized keywords on those videos so then they're searchable. So yeah, there's a lot of interest in how TikTok can be commoditized at the moment.
And look, TikTok Search Ads have also just launched in the last 2 weeks as well. So we've got a couple of clients who've started testing that out, and the results are quite promising from a conversion perspective, performing much better than some of the other ad units which TikTok have been selling. The other thing which I've seen as well, which has risen up alongside this phenomenon with Pete Louise, is the rise of almost like TV shopping network style
Mm.
studios, which are doing nothing but TikTok shops, which are essentially just buildings with lots of different rooms. You rent it out and you just do your TikTok, your live shopping event for like a couple of hours. That's it.
Yeah, I've seen that overseas. There's some really popular channels where they're just flicking through clothes, millions of views happening. It's pretty cool to see.
It is. When I was at the Sydney Beauty Expo a couple of weeks ago, that was really interesting to see as well because there was actually a store there. I believe there were some a Chinese brand who were there who were doing like a live shopping so that people could actually see it, and people were coming around and go like, "Wow, what are you doing?" It's like they were doing like live demos. They were showing different products. They were bringing people in, applying it to them, and it was just like it was so fast. There was just so much going on. It was like this whole sensory explosion. I
Yeah,
couldn't keep up.
that's a really great way to bring the audience along for the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And a story which happened quite a while ago that Harvey Norman and Latitude were caught up in some trouble because they were offering 60-month interest free in their advertising, which didn't quite disclose that it wasn't quite interest free because there were a lot of fees, credit card requirements, and a lot of other things which weren't clearly stated in the advertising. Anyway, so they appealed that and they've lost that appeal, which I'm very happy to see.
Look, I included this because I loved it. This is everything you want from a judge and a court case. Like some of the quotes in this were fabulous. Basically, the appeal, they were saying that it's barely arguable to even be seeing this in front of the court, and they upheld it, which was great. I think they called it unmeritorious, which I think is hilarious. So big words in there. One interesting quote I thought around why ASIC bought this case to the federal court in the first place was that they felt that like the ordinary reasonable Australian consumer knows that we have strong laws in this country, so they would expect that the ads they see are reliable, and that's one of the reasons they went harder. So basically they're saying like shoppers know that we're on the case. So this should be an extra reason for why you are held accountable because it's not good enough. Thought that was really interesting.
Look, I think that is a really interesting one. And that's a fantastic segue to one of the major topics we want to talk about, which is around AI. Yeah, and the fact that that trust is so important. So let's move into that one, because are we hitting an AI bubble? Sam Altman, CEO and founder of OpenAI, has said that a bubble, say that a bubble is, we may be in a bubble, and that a lot of people are going to lose quite a lot of money. And I think a lot of this, from my point of view, is the fact that we're not really seeing the return yet for AI. There's a lot of hype around AI at the moment. But some of what has been happening at the moment in the market, particularly around some of the advertising with AI, has not really hit the mark.
Totally. How many times can we say bubble? Yeah, it's one to watch. I don't know if it's dramatized, or probably definitely is dramatized in the media. But yeah, truly, what is that return for investment on the AI that you're using in your business? It can be reliable in some like really simple tasks, but we're just not seeing it stack up for the tasks that we kind of expect it to. So I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, I think it's got a long way to go, and by no means am I saying that it can't get there. It clearly already is slowly getting there. But some of the results we're seeing, what we saw last week from the likes of J. Crew and Guess, shows that it's got quite a long way to go yet, and customers are really starting to push back, probably faster than I expected. Yeah, and even like with some of the content which we're seeing now, when you scroll through Facebook and Instagram, it's becoming easier and easier, I feel, to actually spot it. And there was a great story in the Atlantic, which I read the other day, about how it's getting really hard to actually tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. At the moment, I think that's not quite true. I wonder how that's going to play out. Like, there's going to be this expectation that it is going to have to be real. That if people are going to advertise something, if we are going to be using models in a commercial, that it's not going to be AI generated. Or if it's AI generated, it has to be just stylistically, and it has to be deliberately seen as such. But I wonder whether those laws will be able to keep up as well. We'll be able to keep up with that. And I hope they really, I hope they do, because I think, we are one of the leaders as a country in terms of our safety standards, in terms of like ASIC and what they do, in terms of like the e-safety commissioner. We really play a leading role in that. And I think when you look at the social media bans which are coming into place next year for underage, for kids 16 years and under, we are actually one of the leaders in the world when it comes to things like that. So I really hope that our laws are going to be able to keep up with that, to ensure that consumers are protected.
Yeah, leaders is it's a sad word. If like we're bringing in bans on social media for young adults in 2025, where this tech's been damaging young adults for over
Yeah.
10 years. So I think there's a long way to go. I would love, like you said, I'd hope that we keep up on this, especially with AI moving so fast, but I'm less hopeful than you are.
Yep. Look, by the way, I'm not sure if you saw the video, but how gross was that White House dinner with Trump and all the big
I
tech
was
CEOs?
going to raise that as a potential topic, where it was Trump holds a dinner party with everybody but Elon Musk from AI.
Yep. It was probably one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. It played out to me like that scene in. Have you seen the movie with Kevin Costner, The Untouchables? Where The Untouchables, where Robert De Niro is Al Pacino, and not Al Pacino, Al Capone, and he's walking around the table and everyone's giving him praise and they're praising it, but there's one person who stands behind him, he just clubs him to death with a baseball bat. It felt like that, where it's like everyone is just sycophantic and just giving him this outsized, glorious praise about how wonderful the economy is. And then the very next day, you see that only 22,000 jobs were created in the last month.
Yeah. Yeah, it's dystopian at this point.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit wild. It's a bit wild, but yeah. So I'm optimistic in that. I hope that we do have a head of steam behind us. I believe that our e-safety commissioner is doing a very good job. And I think part of it as well is that now that Trump is really focusing on really not prosecuting, but really punishing countries who are looking to tax big tech. Is essentially what he said. And he doesn't want any country to tax big tech, because it taxes innovation, it taxes America, and things like that. You wonder whether Australia will continue to actually stand up to that and go like, you know what? We actually believe in safety first, and you may want that, and you may say all these things, but at the end of the day, we need to look after our citizens. Yeah, and I think Europe takes a very
They
big
do.
role in all this. Like EU are fantastic, whether it be Italy or France, and I'd love to see Australia in that mix as well.
Yeah, agree for sure.
All right, and moving on to, I think let's call this our final story for the day. So since we've covered off a lot
Yeah.
today, is that let's cover off. I was looking at the retail work and mental health crisis at the moment. Now, the SDA, the Shop Distributors Union, have released a report called "Under Pressure: The Hidden Cost of Retail" from a survey of 11,000 retail workers, which have found that there's incredibly high levels of stress at the moment in the retail industry, which is really affecting the mental health of a lot of young people. And some of the stories in this are just remarkable, of people having to clean up customers who are going to change rooms and like doing number twos and then covering up with clothes. And then they were expected to clean that up. It's like some of this is really traumatic stuff, and people going in there and like arguing with them about a sale or items which they never had in stock, but refusing to leave because of it. It's pretty crazy what's happening out there.
Working in retail is a very interesting job to just see the mix of society, particularly where your store is and what your product is too. So yeah, horrifying stories, but it doesn't surprise me at all. I've had similar ones as well in the change rooms, unfortunately. But it's definitely a worrying report when it comes to like the unsafe conditions and how this is really essentially harming retail output, harming retail sales because the customer will feel that, they're not motivated to be there and that we're not getting that sale across the line.
Yeah, and I think look, and you want young people to go into those jobs as well, and you want them to be happy and fulfilled, learn great habits, so that if they move on from the retail industry, they can bring it to somewhere else. As we've talked about before, some of the best people I've ever worked with have started their careers in hospitality or retail, just like I have. I started in both because you learn a lot of fantastic skills there. You learn about negotiation, you learn about people, you learn about compromise, which you just don't need when you work in, like, if you start off in an office job, because you never have to never have to speak to someone, or you speak with someone on the end of a phone, right? But when you're there with that person, you have to learn a lot of great skills. And I really hope that retail continues to be a great industry to attract young people into, because it is cool. You get to do some really fun stuff. You get to work with some really, really great products. But if we don't provide the conditions for these young people to actually have a great experience, we're going to keep losing them. Yeah, and bricks and mortar retail is gonna is
Or it's just going to get more expensive to find staff, and it already is. One of the call outs in why they're feeling burnt out or was that I thought is relevant, especially to e-commerce, was about the rollout of new tech and just taking the team on the journey. If the team is deciding that they're putting in, let's say, Shopify POS, making sure that the retail team are a part of that process and feel like they're bought in rather than just having the rug pulled onto them with these new tech changes that they're not comfortable with.
Yep, yeah, I agree. I think that's something which isn't just for frontline workers, but for anyone, that when you do introduce new technology, you need to bring people along for the journey. Unfortunately, I think with the pace which things move, people kind of forget that, because we just want to implement something so quickly, get the results so fast, so we don't actually think about how do we actually take a beat and how do we make sure that everyone's on board, because we're always in such a rush. But I guarantee you that if you take the time to ensure that everyone is on the same page, they'll adopt it faster and you'll get a much better result faster.
Yeah. And that would be, rather than being a negative event for your retail staff, a positive one. They feel bought into the company's values. They feel, that they've contributed to that project.
Yeah, yeah. I remember back at Sanity, we used to do that very often. That, as a team, we would sit down and we actually discuss like what could actually make the team work faster. Like, where were the issues? So once a month, once every couple of months, we go up to the ceiling, the roof, whatever it was, just an empty space, just with some chairs. We get a couple of pizzas and we just talk about it. Just talk about all the issues. How do we improve things? And we'd come up with some really great initiatives out of that, and we'd start implementing them. And then it was great to see some of those things then get rolled out nationwide.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I think a lot of things there which we really need to think of. And I really do hope that we can actually address some of this and make sure that we create a really positive work environment, but also for customers as well, to bloody start treating people with respect. Like, it is just
Yeah.
mind blowing, that you would even do some of these things.
Yeah. It's just basic humanity, really.
Yeah. Although having said that, I used to work Friday nights, and Friday nights you'd get the usual drunk would be coming in at 8:30, and
Yeah.
he'd come in, he'd be pissed, and you'd always have a bit of a laugh and chat with him for a little bit, and then he'd move on his way, and it was like, great, okay, I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as long as he's not coming back the following week and making it a regular thing.
Oh, he would come in every week. He'd come in, have a chat. He'd always want to listen to the same tune. It's like, okay, cool, we'll put the CD on for you. He'd want to listen to something else, and yep, that's fine. It was just a fun way just to end the night. So just like, yep, cool. You just kind of roll with it.
Yeah,
He was harmless. At the end of the day, he was generally harmless.
yeah. Part of the quirk.
Yeah. All right. That's all we've got time for. A bit of a long one this week. So everyone, thanks for joining us for episode 104. So 2 years now of recording. Sorry, this one is going to be coming out a little bit late because I have been under the weather. But Alex, really looking forward to your webinars over the next week. So Thursday drops you're going to be doing?
Thursday drops. I think it's 11 a.m. Sydney time. I'll put that on LinkedIn tomorrow for 4 weeks. So covering different topics. Got some customers joining me as well as some of the team.
Fantastic. No, I'm looking forward to that. And I will be at IPX this week. And in a couple of weeks' time, I'll be also doing the opening keynote at eTail Connect. So a lot of speaking this month for me and back on the travel wagon. But in the meantime, everyone, keep innovating, keep selling, and keep growing. And we'll see you all back here next week.
Thank you. Bye.